Hi there. I'm going to read today to you the scientific method. There's a method to this madness. This is in Google Classroom. I'm assuming that you were there. There's a reading section, and then on the back of, or on the second page of that, there is the answering the question. So it's reading comprehension. I'm going to help you by reading this to you. If you can follow along, and even use maybe the highlight tool or something to highlight important parts of the article, and then we'll go back and we'll do the questions together as well. So I'm going to get rid of my picture. I think I'm going to get rid of my picture. There we go. Okay. Again, follow along as I'm reading this, and we will go do the questions afterwards. Okay. Scientific method. There's a method to the madness. It's a mad, mad world, and sometimes it's hard to make sense of it all. Questions like, where did we all come from? Why do birds fly? And why is the sky blue? Make our brains melt and promptly cause our foreheads to hit our lab desk at a high rate of speed. Luckily, there's a solution. Scientists have developed this nifty thing called the scientific method to help us find answers to questions about the world around us. In the scientific method, you must first ask a question or identify a problem you would like to solve, such as, is this spicy chicken still safe to eat if I dropped it on the floor and I picked it up 5 seconds later? You must use your skills of observation, your 5 senses, and inferences, making a judgment based on experience or evidence to predict an answer to your question. You infer that because the sandwich was on the floor beyond the 3-second rule, it may be covered in bacteria and not safe to eat. What do y'all think? Okay. One important thing about observations is that they should be objective or measurable, based on evidence and free of personal opinion, bias, or emotion. A person whose observations are affected by public opinion, personal taste, or experience is considered to be making a subjective observation. A perfect example of this would be to look at product reviews of a new smartphone on Amazon. Individually, each review is subjective. It's based on a person's personal experience with the phone. However, if you were a potential buyer of that phone, you should take an objective look at all of the reviews to get a general feel for the phone, looking at the technical specifications and any possible drawbacks and benefits before purchasing it. Observations can also be qualitative or quantitative, which we've already talked about these a little bit, depending on what you're observing. The quality of things like color, texture, shape, or other characteristics or descriptions like muddy or frosty are qualitative observations. Remember, those are using our 5 senses. I see, I hear, I smell, I taste, I touch. Measurements that like length or temperature or the quantity of something are considered quantitative observations. Once you made your observations and you know what you want to investigate, you should form a hypothesis. When you hypothesize, you make an if and then statement, or a prediction of the possible outcome to your question or problem, similar to making a forecast for the future. If the bacteria attaches to a substance within 5 seconds, then my sandwich will be safe to eat if I pick it up off the floor prior to 3 seconds. After you predict a solution to your problem, you create an experiment. In order to test your hypothesis, you should develop a reliable experiment that is composed of steps that are so detailed and easy to follow that anyone can replicate your test and carry it out, just like you did. So your experiment might go like this. I will make 13 spicy sandwiches. One of them will serve as my control, and I will test the amount of bacteria on the outside of the sandwich by swabbing and then growing the bacteria in a petri dish for 3 days. 4 of them I will drop on the floor of my kitchen near the sink and pick up after 3 seconds and swab each one for bacteria. 4 sandwiches I will drop and leave on the floor for 5 seconds and swab for bacteria. And my remaining 4 sandwiches I will drop and leave on the floor for 10 seconds and then swab for bacteria. Also, it's important that you only change one thing during your experiment. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. It's also important that you only change one thing during your experiment. And this is called the independent variable. It's what you're testing. The amount of time your sandwich spends on the floor is what you were choosing to test. What happens as a result of that change is called your dependent variable. Data. It is what you are measuring and depends on the independent variable. The amount of time the sandwich spends on the floor determines the amount of bacteria it collects. All other things that remain the same in your investigation are called controls. The type and amount of bread, the lettuce, meat, condiments used, the location the sandwich was dropped, whether or not you washed your hands prior to dropping each one, all of those are controls. And if any of your controls change, it'll be difficult to determine what caused the bacteria to grow. Was it the amount of time on the floor, or was it because it was dropped in the bathroom versus the kitchen that would cause an increase in the amount of bacteria? Okay, again, your independent variable in this case is how long you leave the chicken sandwich on the floor. Your dependent variable is you're going to count how many bacteria colonies grow on your chicken sandwich. Now it's time to perform the experiment. Follow your steps exactly and record all of your numerical data and observations in a table so it's organized. Time to drop my sandwiches and swab for bacteria. Wow, the Petri dishes for the sandwiches that were left on the floor for 3 seconds had an average of 3 bacterial colonies, each less than 1.5 centimeters in diameter. The 5-second sandwiches had an average of 4 colonies, each less than 2 centimeters in diameter. And lastly, the 10-second sandwiches developed 6 colonies, averaging 2 centimeters each. I need to put this in my data table. When your investigation is complete, you need to analyze your data. The sandwiches that spent more time on the floor had more colonies than those that spent less time on the floor. So now what? Now you would draw a conclusion. What does it tell you about your hypothesis? Okay. Well, the longer the sandwich spends on the floor, the more bacteria it accumulates, and the 3-second rule actually does not exist. So what happens when your results don't add up? If necessary, you'll need to revisit your hypothesis and possibly modify your experiment. So go back and change your experiment, or if necessary, create an entirely new experiment. No matter what your investigation results yield, you will always need to communicate your results. The public and the other scientists need to know what you found, good or bad, so that they may build upon your knowledge and support or reject your hypothesis on their own. For the time being, though, you may not want to chow down on that bacteria-ridden chicken sandwich. Okay, so now we're going to go to the section where you guys are filling out the answers to the questions. You're doing this in Kami, so you're going to go over here to the side. This is not open in Kami, but when you open it in Kami, you know that there's the text box that you click that allows you to type in this section. So make sure that you do have it open in Kami. And you're going to go back to the reading, and you're going to list in order those steps to the scientific method. And there were 7 steps that they talked about. So if you go back up here, number 1, okay, you have to ask a question or identify a problem. So in your scientific method, that's always your first step. Is you got a problem you need to solve, or you have a question you need to answer. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 is you're going to, let's see, what is number 2? Number 2 is normally research. Okay, you're going to find out everything that you know about it already. Somebody may have already done the experiment before and have already answered the question, but I think the question that they've got here is, let's see, form a hypothesis. Okay, So the second thing that you should form a hypothesis. That hypothesis is what you think is going to occur. If I do this, then this is going to happen. Okay. Then you create an experiment, okay, in order to test your hypothesis. When you're creating your experiment, you're going to remember to make sure that you copy down detailed steps. That I did this first, and then I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this. And that way someone else can come back behind you, or you yourself can redo your experiment, recreate it exactly like you did the first time. So make sure that you do write down detailed steps in number 3, sorry. Number 4, you're going to go down here and you're going to perform your experiment, okay? So perform the experiment is your 4th. Oops. Well, it's not wanting to do. Okay. Perform the experiment. Okay, that's the fun part where you actually go in and get to do science. Okay, once you have performed your experiment, you're going to be collecting the observations and data. And then you have to analyze that data. Okay, usually when you're collecting data, you put it in a data table, you create graphs, and then it helps you to analyze and make sense of your data. After you've analyzed the data, you're going to use that data to draw a conclusion, which is number 6. A conclusion is going to answer the question or solve the problem where was your hypothesis correct? That if and then statement. If I do this, then this is going to happen. Did your experiment prove it or disprove it? And finally, the last step is communicate your results. Okay, so you're going to make sure that you go in and let other people know the results of your experiment, whether they were good or bad, okay, or whether they proved your hypothesis or proved it false. That's really important information that you need to share with others. All right, so those are the steps of the scientific method. You would have typed those in this area right here. Okay. Number 2, at any point in time, if your results are a bit off, what can you do? So if you've made a mistake or you realize that you've forgotten a step in your procedures or whatever, you can always go back and redo. Okay, so you can always stop and modify your experiment at any time. So modify your experiment. Okay, so you can go back and change things and restart it. All right, number 3. When you make an observation, what are you using? Okay, most of the time you are using, again, observations. You're using your 5 senses, or you are measuring and counting. Okay. All right, number 4, identify each of these statements as either qualitative or quantitative. Remember, qualitative have to do with your 5 senses. I see, I hear, I smell, I taste, I touch. And quantitative has to do with specific numbers or measurements. So number 4A is that knife is sharp and has a serrated edge. So how do you know it's sharp, and how do you know it has a serrated edge? So is that qualitative or quantitative? All right, letter B. Her newborn baby weighs 6 pounds and 12 ounces and measured 20 inches long. Well, we know this is in the United States because they're using U.S. customary. There's pounds and ounces and there's inches. If it was anywhere else in the world, it would more than likely be kilograms or grams or centimeters. So so these are specific amounts: 6 pounds 12 ounces and 20 inches long. Would that be qualitative or would that be quantitative? 4C, he traveled 34 miles to the conference yesterday. How far did he travel, and how do you know? Okay, is that qualitative or quantitative? For D, the weather is overcast today. Well, how do you